Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on this channel. So in this video we will be repairing a CITIZEN Promaster Aqualand dive watch from the 90s, and I use the word repairing loosely here because we're not properly servicing the watch. This particular watch I got for $50 online, and the ad said it just needs a new battery, but after replacing the button cell inside I quickly found out that only half of the watch was working. The dive hands would move if I used the buttons, but the analog hands would not budge. When holding the watch close to my ear, I could hear that it was ticking along nicely, but no movement was happening, which led me to believe that the oils inside had gunked up the gear train. The tools we will be using here in this video are shown here. The only must-have tools you need are the watch oil, some isopropyl alcohol, a watchmaker's flathead screwdriver, and some very fine tweezers. A movement holder and magnifying loupe help a lot though, and something to open the case back, of course. For this video I'm assuming you have enough knowledge about watches to replace a battery in one. Not much more than that is needed. Now this video I originally shot just to help myself put the watch back together in case I ran into any trouble, so please excuse the horrible camera angles and my hands and head in the way for parts of the video, ensuring that you can't see what I'm doing. I didn't originally mean to publish this, but then thought it might be useful to someone else also having trouble with a similar watch. Essentially what we will be doing here is just disassembling the watch enough to reach the analog hand gear train, then cleaning up the old oils and applying a tiny bit of new watch oil there to get the gears running smoothly again. You can find the service manual for this movement online. I'll link it in the description below. It was a great help in disassembling this watch. Here in the video you can already see that we're moving forward quite fast, but basically after opening the case back we'll take off the plastic cover, the metal battery holder and the battery itself, and after that we need to remove a few screws. One of them is holding the depth sensor ribbon cable in place. After that we can free the movement from the case, and if you don't have a separate movement holder it may be easier to just keep the movement in the case. In this step we're getting the grey plastic battery holder out to reach the PCB underneath. It's held on by two more screws in the corners, one of which is the same that holds the metal battery holder in place. When removing this plastic you need to be careful not to lose the alarm prong that is below it. And now after removing the plastic holder there is a gold colored metal piece in the middle, held on by two tiny screws. And underneath this piece is the gear train for the analog watch part. Be extra careful when removing this, lifting it up ever so slightly to make sure you're not disturbing the gear underneath too much, as the gunk may be holding them onto the metal. Now this is where a professional watchmaker would continue the disassembly to get all the gears out properly and then clean them up as they should, and then assembling everything back. But since I'm afraid I'd never get everything back together and I'd probably just lose or break a few parts when doing this, I'm taking the easy way out. I'm dipping a Q-tip in some isopropyl alcohol and dabbing it carefully on the gears, making sure I don't leak too much IPA under the gears. Then I'm going over the gears with a dry Q-tip to clean up any excess IPA. And it's not properly shown in the video, but basically after the Q-tip step, applying a very small dab of oil on just one or two toots of each gear with a sharp metal stick. The movement of the gears will spread out the oil more evenly, and you definitely don't want to put too much oil in here, or you'll face the same issue of the oil clogging your gears sooner or later. It's a good idea to put a small amount on the tops of the gears as well, on the part where they rest against the metal plate. I was searching online quite a bit before I started this project, and I found out that this problem is not too uncommon with these watches. The obvious solution is to send it in for service, but where I live the service would cost multiple times the value of the watch itself, so it doesn't make any sense for me to do that. By any means, if you have a chance, just send it in for professional service. It'll be much better than a homemade repair. And after oiling the watch, it's time to assemble it again and see if it works. It's quite straightforward, just make sure to put everything in its place correctly. We won't be focusing on any of the seals because, you know, I don't plan to use this underwater at all. So after the assembly is complete, it's time to test the watch and see if it's working. In order to test it, you first need to reset it. This is done by taking the crown out to the second click and clicking all 3 buttons at the same time. You should hear a beep when you let go of them, and after that you can set the time and see if it's ticking. And here is a final shot of the watch 1 month later. Everything is still working, it's still ticking along nicely, and no problems with it at all. Remains to be seen how long it will work, but yeah, thanks for watching.